Well, thank you, everyone, for coming, for braving the slush on the streets, and welcome to the Yale University Art Gallery. My name is Stephanie Wiles, and I'm the Henry J. Heinz II Director of the Art Gallery. And it's our great pleasure this evening to host this 10th anniversary celebration of the program Making the Invisible Visible in partnership with the Yale School of Medicine and the Yale Center for British Art. The Art Gallery is very proud to have been part of this program from its inception. And I wanted to thank my colleagues across the museum, but also particularly in the education department, especially Liliana Milkova, for the excellent work they've done in bringing new audiences to us here at the Art Gallery, and especially new perspectives on our works of art that we ourselves are learning from every single day. So it's terrific today to have all of you here and our distinguished panel of speakers. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Robert. Thank you.
Try this one.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you so much, Liliana. It's been an incredible journey dreaming up this evening with you, and having all of these people who've braved the not so great weather to come and celebrate this labor of love, essentially. And it's 10 years of being in existence and being a space that was really invaluable to me, and I think more importantly, really invaluable to so many people who came after. So because I want to thank a lot of people and tell you a story of 10 years in like 7 minutes, I wrote down some notes. But over the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you the story of making the invisible visible and what has made it so special through a series of thank yous to people who made it possible over the past 10 years. Then I'm going to share what we're working on in the future as an invitation to join us in collaboration. So the story of MIV started in my first year of medical school during an art observation workshop that was part of the main curriculum. And that's where I have to pause to give my first set of thank yous. It's to Linda Friedlander and to Erwin Braverman for their impact on Yale, but even more like the field of medical education and museum education overall. If it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have been brave enough to break down the silos between my art history background and my developing healthcare professional identity. As part of their workshop, we visited the Yale Center for British Art, and were guided by the museum docents to look through a pre-selected group of works to practice on our ability to provide detailed description of what we were seeing. The paintings were beautiful, and honestly, after being an art history major and studying abroad in London, I was like, this is my element. I'm so happy that this is here. I get to be in the museum as part of the curriculum. This is amazing. So I definitely geeked out, loved taking part of close looking with my peers. But as I realized that one of the main goals of these sessions was to learn to distinguish between describing and interpreting, I found myself wondering if a museum discussion might possibly go in a different direction. Here we were being challenged to be detailed and relaying information about what we were seeing in the paintings, and sometimes diagnose any health conditions that we could deduce from our observations. But what I wanted to do in addition to this was to explore the messages behind the visual stories, as well as their implications in medicine and society at large, and what they had to say about who I was becoming as a physician. So as a first year student, I felt like it was a metaphor for what I was dealing with in the rest of my coursework. We spent a lot of time understanding how the human body works and how failures of function develop into disease. But we weren't exploring the larger context of what causes people to become sick, especially why some groups are more likely than others to do so. We were given epidemiological data about disease prevalence and left to our own devices when it comes to deducing the why of it all. And by the spring of my first year, I was already committed to making a space where students could learn about those issues, where we can interrogate illness as a manifestation of societal oppression, how power creates those societal structures, and what health professionals can do about it wherever they may land when they're done with their training. This brings me to my second thank you, and that is to Tareem Rahman, my sister from another mister. She was a classmate who believed that we could create better where we were when it comes to social medicine education at Yale. Together, we worked tirelessly to create the interdisciplinary U.S. Health Justice elective that's 10 years old this year as well. Tareem was in my group during the workshop at the YCBA, and when I began talking her ear off about how I wanted to go beyond discussion and talk about the historical context of the paintings and the lessons they could tell us about practicing medicine, she honestly challenged me to incorporate it into USHJ. And that spring and summer were a flurry of meetings and planning, which leads me to another flurry of thank yous. So I want to thank Marcela Nunez-Smith, Woody Lee, and Robert Rohrbaugh for believing in Tareem and my vision enough to fund the pilot elective for U.S. Health Justice. I then want to thank Cyra Levenson and Cindy Crusto for working with me on turning this idea into the first iteration of Making the Invisible Visible as part of the U.S. Health Justice course. So the way that I met Cyra was actually through her sister, Alice Rosenthal, who was a lawyer and who was going to be a facilitator within the U.S. Health Justice course. In passing, I was telling her about my interest in art and using the museum for these things, and she was like, "You need to meet Cyra. There is this amazing exhibit that's going to happen at the YCBA. It's called Figures of Empire, Slavery and Portraiture in the 18th Century Atlantic, and I think this aligns exactly with what you're planning to do." And so she introduced me, and if it wasn't that distinct in terms of the introduction, Alice is a character, I would have felt like I've known Cyra my whole life. We really just hit the ground running in the most beautiful way. And Cindy Crusto really provided an invaluable contribution as well. So she has a background in community psychology and facilitation, and she really provided the theoretical framework for participants to understand identity and power as it pertains to patient-provider interactions. So we worked together to create this first iteration of MIV using the Works in the Figures of Empire exhibition. And what happened during that session was nothing short of magical. We created a space for students to slow down and give them permission to interrogate questions that had been nagging at their conscience since they started their training. We saw how the paintings really naturally sparked reflections among the students about their experiences in ways that they likely wouldn't have shared otherwise. And with that frameworks about the social phenomena that we're experiencing and existing in, MIV gave the students the tools to more proactively wrestle with who they were becoming in their health professional training. And so the session was a resounding success, and word spread among educators at the Yale School of Medicine, which brings me to my next set of thank yous. I want to thank Dean Engoff for heeding the student feedback about the value of making the invisible visible and making the space to scale it and bring it into the main curriculum at the Yale School of Medicine, specifically the Introduction to the Profession course, IPRO for short. It's a lot of acronyms, just sorry, it's medicine. I want to also thank Anna Reisman because Dean Engoff brought Anna in to say, can you adopt this program into the program for the humanities and medicine? And Anna didn't bat an eye, and I was extremely thankful for it. So that leads me to my next set of thank yous. I want to thank Pam Franks, Jennifer Reynolds-Kay, Najra Mayer, Zhao Situ, who all welcomed us into the Yale University Art Gallery to take this small tour to scale for 104 medical students at a time. It was a undertaking, but it wasn't even a rolling out of the red carpet. It was like a warm hug. It was like, come on in. Let's geek out in the galleries. Let's figure out what works, makes sense in terms of what we're really trying to explore. And it worked. The first MIV program in the main curriculum was in 2015, and the students loved it. There were rave reviews, and more so than the rave reviews is the fact that students were coming forward and saying, I love this so much that I want to be a part of passing it on forward. I want to be a facilitator. And so that brings me to my next set of thank yous. I want to thank Niantara Anderson, a student at the time, attending now, while ago, who has always been a champion for the arts and humanities and really served as an advocate for MIV and a peer trainer for future students. And then I want to thank, this is a long list, humor me, Sydney Green, Zoe Adams, Joanna Andow, Melinda Wang, and Kenneth Morford, all medical trainees, some students, some residents, some fellows, who saw the value of making the invisible visible and wanted to really champion it forward. So all of these people served as stewards to the program, facilitating tours, but also presenting at national conferences long after I graduated from Yale and after Cyra moved on from the YCBA. So over time, it became apparent that MIV was great for the people who participated in it, but something special was happening among the facilitators. Like, serving as a workshop facilitator created a community for student leaders to go deeper together and gave them the agency to guide others in those critical, self-reflecting conversations about medical training, about who you're becoming in medicine, and about the difference that you want to make in the world. I returned to Yale 3 years after graduating to the National Clinician Scholars Program, and I fell right into it, right back into MIV, helping facilitate tours, helping to train the new class. And it was honestly Anna's idea to say, okay, this has been kind of going on for 10 years and there isn't an exact structure to it, but students keep wanting to facilitate. How about we create some kind of structure for this? And I'm really happy to say that we created a new concentration at the medical school, the Critical Health Humanities concentration, where we have a group of 7 students who said, I really want to learn museum facilitation skills. I want to learn to be an educator. I want to learn to be an organizer. I'm really inspired by MIV, and I would love the opportunity to be supported in creating my own curricula. And so over this academic year, that's what we've been doing. And I really invite all of you to take a part in it and to, help make the museum feel like your own, because the museum has always been like my happy place, my shelter in a storm, like bad clerkships or rough exams, like coming here and walking through the galleries and reflecting on who I was becoming really helped to keep me on the trajectory that got me here today. So that's it.
Thank you. My first thank you is to Robert. You just heard the story of how we met, and there's so many of you in the room here who have been part of this program for such a long time. I'm humbled by being up here as just one spokesperson for the magic that is university art museums, to be honest. My experience here, I'm a museum educator, began actually at the Yale Art Gallery when I was in high school, because I grew up in New Haven. I went to New Haven Public Schools, and for some reason, one day I decided while I was walking down Chapel Street to come into the art gallery on my own. And it's probably the first time I'd gone to a museum, thought of it on my own. And I walked up into the galleries, and it was just me and a Picasso painting. And I thought, this is unbelievable. I can't believe, I've seen this as a postcard. It was like meeting a celebrity and being alone in that space. And it just struck me as so inspiring, so humbling, and full of so much possibility. I didn't know at the time that that's what I would end up doing for 25 years, but 5 museums later, I'm still inspired, awed, and humbled by that experience, and dedicated to making sure that it happens for other people. This partnership and this program is, as most things are in life, a surprise and an inspiration. Again, as a museum educator, my entire purpose is to try to make a space like this as dynamic, exciting, meaningful to as many people as possible. And I take it as a personal challenge, if you're not interested in museums, to figure out how we could get you interested. And so to find that there's this deep connection among such a disparate discipline, medical practitioners, students, was deeply inspiring to me. And I want to say that as you'll experience when you go on the tours, this isn't an instrumentalizing of artwork. This isn't about using an artwork to demonstrate something else. It's about a deep reflection through the artwork into all of our lives and into the like many myriad disciplines that we can take artwork, and that also is embedded in the object itself, because the time, the place, the makers, the context, it's all there. And so to have someone like Robert mentioned, our colleague Cindy, who was a self-proclaimed not art person, get to know a work of art like Carrie James Marshall's work, a seminal piece that's in the Yale Art Gallery collection, say, I need to learn more about this. Not only interested, I need to know more about this. Just felt to me like the absolute pinnacle of success for what an art museum should be, and certainly an art museum on a campus. And so, as Robert mentioned, the fact that the medical community here embraced this opportunity and this possibility and has shepherded it forward for all these years is so humbling to me, and something I'm deeply grateful for having been invited to be a part of. And I'm so excited for all of you to get a taste of what the experience is like today. Please come up and ask us questions if you have them. We're happy to talk about it, as you can tell. And we're eager to spread the word that an art museum is for everyone. So again, thank you all who are in the room for being part of this, for supporting it, for our hosts at the Art Gallery, for all the educators in the room, for all the clinicians in the room, for all the curators in the room. To me, this is what we're really all here for. And so thank you for having us, and wait until you go on the tour. That's when you'll really get it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cyra. Hi, everybody. I'm Anna Reisman. I'm at the medical school in the Department of Medicine, and I run the program for humanities in medicine. And so, as Robert mentioned, I've kind of took this program as part of our program. This is why I need to just read what I have here. Okay, so I'll start over. I want to start by saying how much I love and value this program and this collaboration, and how grateful I am to have had the opportunity to support it through my position as director of the Medical Humanities Program at the School of Medicine. And I also will say thank you to Erwin, Braverman, Linda Friedlander, and their wonderful program, The Art of Observation, and they realized that looking at paintings was a fantastic way and an effective way to teach that art of observation. And as Robert said, attending that session showed him that an art museum could be a classroom for medical students. Erwin and Linda, and my neighbor Cal Watsky also, their program really lit a spark. And again, as Robert described after that session, his mind leapt to thinking about how a museum-based discussion could be a way to engage students in conversation about deep topics that are not easy to talk about and that are not typically part of a medical school curriculum. How a work of art can be kind of the crux, the jumping off point, the anchor of that conversation. And only through describing what it portrays, which of course is really important, but also pondering the meaning of the historical period when it was made, the period it depicts, the artist's background, all these things add immensely to and encourage a very different type of exploration. The sorts of issues that we talk about in these conversations that happen with a group gathered around a painting, these are big, messy, difficult concepts that permeate everything we do in medicine, whether we realize it or not, in our own experiences, in the experiences of our patients, the people we work with, the larger systems we work in, the histories that shape us, and how we view ourselves and this profession. In other words, museum-based discussions can be a great way to engage in critical thinking. When I started running the program for humanities in medicine at the med school, it was in 2015, and so it was the early days of making the invisible visible. And it took me a while to wrap my mind around the vastness of possibilities for the program. And I have to say, thanks to making the invisible visible, MIV, we've evolved into thinking about the medical humanities less as a smorgasbord of humanities content and more of a way of thinking, so a humanities perspective. For me, this means using the various modalities that make up the humanities to gain a critical perspective, one that encourages self-examination, one that helps us recognize our assumptions, a perspective that can shed light on community concerns and pushes us to appreciate the inherent uncertainty in medicine, a perspective that helps us to step back and examine the systems we work in, a critical perspective, to say it again, a way to really begin to see. Back in my early days directing the program, I was lucky enough to join one of the art tours and that Robert created, along with the many others. And I remember looking at a painting with a group of students and really being floored by the artful way, pun intended, that the facilitator effortlessly steered a detailed and rich conversation about the elements of a painting into an intense discussion about really hard things to talk about, things like hierarchies of power in medicine, bias, the way we lump people into categories and make assumptions. Exploring, talking, digging into these questions, this, in a nutshell, is making the invisible visible, using conversations around these paintings, this art, as a means of shedding light on things that may not be easy to see. And it became clear to me that getting students out of their comfort zones, and faculty, by using art and museum-based discussions, it dawned on me that this phrase, MIV, making the invisible visible, that's what the medical humanities should also be about. So I echo all of the thank yous so far, and I want to thank my colleagues Robert and Cyra for being amazing collaborators and partners in this process as MIV morphs from a required once-a-year workshop for first-year medical students to a community of critical thinkers who are learning how to use the museum and museum-based conversations as a way to engage with important, challenging, critical topics. And finally, thanks to Liliana Milkova, who has been a wonderful partner around this program and who had the idea of doing this, creating this celebration, and really pulled it all together. And thank you to the Yale University Art Gallery, the Yale Center for British Art, and everybody else who has been involved with this project, past and future. Thank you all.
Okay, so we just spent 22 minutes telling you about something. It has nothing on showing you what it is, and the best people who can do that are the students that really brought this to the present day. And so you probably met a lot of them in the lobby. They were signing you up for these mini tours, and right now we're going to congregate in the lobby again. If you forgot who you signed up with, we thought about that. You have a slip. The students will be at like different corners of the lobby area, and then you can go up into the museums together on the tour. Thank you so much for being here. Ooh. I don't think we need a group 5. Yeah. So, yeah, that's... Oh, yes. So if you didn't sign up yet, please make it known, and we will make sure that you are appropriately, equally distributed into a group.
And we have plenty of food and beverage.
Yes.
So please help yourself.
Correct. When you can't bring the food and beverage into the galleries, but it's a 30-minute tour, and there's plenty more time to eat on the other side. So this is the program overview, but from 6:30 to 7 will be the short tours, and from 7 to 7:30, more just food and great company and keeping each other warm in this really cheery night in terms of the weather. You have a question?
Can you recall when the art and observation course started? This seems like an evolution from that course.
2002.
Oh.
Linda.
I was just asking, when did the art and observation course start? Because this seems to be an evolution from that course.
2002.
2002.
All right. So I know it's hard to get a lot of people from one place to another, so let's use our time to get back into the auditorium.